Hi guys, thank you so much for joining. And today is another day at the studio. Thank you so much. I don't take your presence for granted, and it's important that whenever you are watching this video, this is me telling you welcome. All right, today we're going to be talking about something very significant, and it's so significant that you may not know it's out there, but it's very significant. In life, there are things that affect us a lot more than we even realize. However, if we are to point out things that are important, we probably won't point them out. This is one of those things. All right, I'm just going to give you a couple of seconds to like this video, and of course share it with as many people as possible. Let them know what you're doing at this point in time. It helps the YouTube algorithm to also show it to more people. And of course, if you're already here, do well to subscribe. All right, do well to subscribe. Thank you so much. I really appreciate. Thank you for doing all of that. All right. Of course, feel free to reach out. Drop a comment, send an email, do whatever you want to do on any of my social media platforms. I'll be there to respond to you. Today, we're looking at a topic called domino effect. Domino effect. That's what we're talking about today. And this is one of those topics that you really need to just think about it more practically than theoretically. You have to think about it more practically than theoretically. All right, so let's jump right into it. Today we're speaking on domino effect. I've mentioned that. All right, so I'm going to state out a couple of scenarios, which I'll be doing a lot today, and of course you just have to join me in all those scenarios. So before I start, I'd like to mention that whether we like it or not, our lives as human beings are so intertwined with one another, even if we don't necessarily realize it. Our lives are so intertwined. So let's look at this together. This scenario is purely theoretical. I made it up, but trust me, I said look at it practically. You will be able to see how easy it is to happen in real life. So you work at the supermarket, and your job at the supermarket is to check out goods that people have bought. So you're a cashier, right? Very good. Now, on this particular day, you're meant to be at the supermarket, which is your place of work, by say 8 a.m. But for one reason or the other, you're just feeling a little bit sluggish that day. And so you get there by 8:20. And by the time you get there, you're so disorganized. You're trying to catch up. Oh, what's going on? What am I meant to do now? Oh my, you're like just trying, you know how it is when you go late to work. And so someone had to sit in on your stand for that 20 minutes that you were absent. And of course, the person at the stand just got confused, just because that's not their normal duty post. So they're just trying to make sure the customers are not just there standing. And in all of that, wasted more time. And so basically, even if that person has stayed there for 20 minutes, you who just came at 8:20, you are attending to the second customer. So it means that even the person who was sitting down there couldn't really do much. All right. And now it's your turn. And now you're doing your job, you know what to do. And so you're doing it faster, People that have to pay with cash are paying with cash. People that have to pay with card are paying with card, and everything is going smoothly. However, in that queue is a surgeon who you would have attended to about 10 minutes ago if you were at work earlier. And so eventually you end up attending to the surgeon by, let's say, 8:35. However, that surgeon had been in the supermarket around 8:05, which was just 5 minutes after the supermarket was meant to have opened, right? But what you don't know is that the surgeon has a surgery by 8:40. He has a surgery by 8:40. And so he just wanted to quickly pick up an energy drink from the supermarket and then head to the hospital and then prepare for his surgery. However, the surgery is meant to have started by what? 8:40. And this 8:45, and this is 8:40, and he's still in the supermarket. Eventually you attend to him and he dashes out of the supermarket, barely showing the security guys his receipt of what he bought, because now he's in a hurry. And so he gets into the car, starts driving with full pedals down, and he goes all the way. And because he's so much in a hurry, this is rush hour that was just concluded. A mother of three who was just going back home after dropping her kids in school, not really checking left or right, gets hit by this surgeon. Why? Because the surgeon is in a hurry. And so this is now what goes on. The surgeon has to stop, has to take this other woman to the hospital. Remember, he still has a surgery that should have started by the time of this accident. Anyways, unfortunately, because of how much time had passed, the mother of the three kids, she makes it. However, she's going to be paralyzed for life. She can't walk anymore. The patient for the surgery has complications at the end of the day, and so the surgery doesn't, though successful, additional expenses had to be paid because of the amount of delay with the anesthetics and everything just that could go wrong went wrong. The only thing was that everybody survived at the end of the day, but not in the best possible conditions. Now, you, the cashier, at the end of work that day, you're going to go home saying, "Oh, I had such a great day at work." But you don't realize that just the 20 minutes lateness that you went to work, that 20 minutes changed 3 people's lives forever. It changed the life of the surgeon who now has a criminal record for hitting somebody. That's if he doesn't even go to jail. It changed the life of the mother of the 3 children who is now paralyzed for life because the surgeon was rushing to the hospital because his time was wasted at the supermarket. You've changed the life of somebody who also had a surgery that day and came out with a lot of complications. And so the whole point of this podcast today is to tell you that is to show you how the little actions you take in life may seem insignificant to you, but over the next couple of ripples has serious consequences in the life of others. The person you could have greeted and didn't greet. The person you could have smiled at and didn't smile at. The person you could have just said hi to and you didn't say hi to. The person you could have just asked a simple question, how are you doing today? All those little actions that you think doesn't count for anything. You don't know the ripple effect it has. Haven't you seen it? That a policeman is on the road, the car in front of you talks to the driver in the car in front of you talks to the policeman in a very crazy way and somehow gets away with it. And then the policeman is just angry and then just being so rude and hyperactive towards every other person he meets that day. The little things. It's not like a selfish lifestyle. It's a lifestyle that thinks about me, and that's it. You're not thinking about, okay, if I do this now, how does it affect the next person? How does it affect people over time? How does it affect the person who will talk to this person? I just wish that we could be more considerate when dealing with life. You're in a relationship and you just feel like, okay, you not concern me, who you date next is not my problem. But you're I mean, I'm not even saying you should get into a relationship with the mindset of someday making that person your ex. But if that relationship doesn't work out, that person shouldn't move out of that relationship with a revenge mindset because of what you did, because of how you treated the person. People should leave you happier than they met you. Like when people, after interacting with you, they should leave happier than they were before they met you. It could be a simple compliment. It could be a simple gesture. So we're going to look at 2 conversations today. And with that, we're going to end this podcast. So the first conversation we're going to look at, the topic is, your life is creating ripples. You know how ripples are. You pick a small stone and you throw it into a body of water. Where the stone initially landed, there's a small circle, just a little bit bigger than the size of the stone. But as it goes farther and farther away from where the stone landed, the circle becomes bigger, and depending on how well that stone was thrown, over time, the ripple can even be bigger than a person. It could be bigger than the diameter of a house from just a little stone. And so it wasn't like a big rock that was thrown into the water. It's like a small stone, very small. You may not even have seen that. About the size of the stone that you probably see in your beans. That size of stone. But yet, throw it into water, over time, a big ripple could form. And so it's not, you can't be living life like everything, like you can't say, okay, this thing I did now, it's only this person that affects. That person that is affects is going to meet other people. And you don't now have control over how they are going to treat other people because of just that small thing you did to them. All right. So first conversation is, everything in your life is creating ripples. Everything, your life itself is creating ripples. And the second conversation is the fact that you that started the ripple, you may not even see the last ripple, like the final ripple that is created, you may not see it. You may not see it. The final ripple that is created from your small action, you may not see it. So let's run right through this. I think, our time before we run behind time. All right. So, one thing I've realized is this, right? Nobody lives in isolation. You can't say that this thing I'm going to do now doesn't affect anybody. In fact, I'm making it as a challenge. Put it in the chat if you feel like there's anything that you can do in this life that affects no other person but you. Write it down in the chat. You can't claim that there's nothing that you can't claim that there's something out there that you will do that affects only you. No one lives in isolation. And that's why there are popular statements like, no man is an island. All right. So every decision creates another decision. Every action affects someone else. Every habit teaches somebody something. All right. So I want to ask you a question. What are some small things people underestimate? Like small things, you know? And I wish this was like a gathering. Maybe I would have been asking people face to face. One day, we are getting there. One day we're going to have like a physical gathering where as I'm talking, I'll have physical audience and get answers to some of these questions. But these are some small things that people look down on. Number one, encouragement. Encouragement. Sometimes when you say help somebody, help somebody, help somebody, lift somebody up, we are always thinking about money, 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 money. How much is encouragement? Can you give me 5,000 naira encouragement? How much is encouragement? Oh, bro, this life that you're going through now is not always going to be like that. There was a time I was like this. Encouragement. Criticism. I'm mentioning both the good and the bad now. Criticism. You may think that thing you are saying, you're trying to let this person know the truth. You're trying to let them know the truth. But many destinies, many dreams, many goals have been shut down through improper criticism. I said improper because they are good criticisms. But many goals have been shut down through improper criticism. Another thing you can underestimate is consistency. See, I keep saying it. One of the greatest mentors you're going to have in your lifetime, most times, are people that you have never spoken with. They may not even know. Like, as you may be mentoring somebody and you don't even know. In your place of work, in church, in your neighborhood, some people are looking up to you and like, man, I like the way this guy every Sunday just dress up, goes to church. I like the way she's always quiet. She will just come sweep the whole. You may be mentoring a lot of people that you don't even know about just by your consistency, by your laziness, by the way you forgive people, by how grateful you appear to be, by always smiling. You influence people more than you realize. You do. I'll give you this example. When I was in primary school, maybe primary 2, primary 1, thereabout, there was this guy I used to look at. He was in primary 4, primary 5 then. And in my primary school, people who play drums during assembly are from primary 4 and 5. So primary 5 played for the first term, and then for the second and third term, primary 4 play. And so those set of primary 4 guys will play from their primary 4 second term, primary 4 third term, and then primary 5 first term. And then by the time they are entering primary 5 second term, the set of primary 4 behind them will take over again, just like that. And so there was this particular guy. He played the snare drum, right? He played the snare drum. And to be honest, this guy plays the drum nice. And he wasn't doing something different from what the other snare drummers were playing. But the posture he took when playing the drum, damn, I liked it. I liked it so much that when I'm playing drum in the air, I just put my leg like the guy, stand the way he stands, and I'm telling you, I just stand the way he stands, put my leg the way he puts his leg, and that was it. That guy influenced me to the extent that when I got to primary 4, I swore I was going to play drum, and I did. And so they do it like audition, like Project Fame. You're going to decide which drums you're going to play and all of that. And the teacher then, you must know how to play like a flute before you're going to be allowed to play drums. But God saved me. I didn't know how to play flute so well. Before it got to my turn, they transferred her to another school. And so that requirement's off the table, you know. And when it was time for me to choose which instrument I was going to play, I chose the snare drum immediately because of that guy. Immediately, right? Immediately. And so that was just crazy. That's me and that guy never spoke to each other. I don't even know his name, and I didn't know his name then. But that singular impression he made me decide that I was going to play the snare drum. And I stood the same way he stands for a long time. I played drums in secondary school too, and I played it the same way, standing the same way. So you may be mentoring people in life and you don't even know. All right. So this is a small illustration. A father comes home tired every evening. He doesn't realize his children are learning how adults respond to pressure. You understand? So he thinks he's just living, but he's actually teaching his children. Same thing I've been saying here. You know, you can tell your children everything you want to tell them. Don't shout at people, don't do, but they are watching you shout at your wife every evening and they're like, is this shouting at people only for children? Blessing only for children. Yeah. So when I get older, I can shout. You know? See, you influence people more times than you can realize. Think about this other one. A manager is always complaining. Soon the whole office complains. One attitude, many ripples. If you have a boss that is always complaining, it's just a matter of time. Even the staff, everybody starts complaining about their junior ones in the office, and before you know, it's like everybody, the whole office is just toxic environments don't start one day. It's over time. All right. So Proverbs 18 verse 21 simply says that the tongue has the power of life and death. Everything you say, everything you do, it's just a matter of time. It's rubbing on other people you don't even know. Somebody might have become a psychopath because of you, and you don't even know, and you're there saying, nah, a psychopath. But it's because of you. Like, you don't even know. That's the crazy part. You cannot live your life in an isolated way, saying, what I do is my business and it doesn't affect anyone else. You have to understand that people are constantly watching you. People are constantly admiring you. They're not only gossiping about you, they also admire you, whether you like it or not. So what you should be asking yourself is, what ripple am I creating in my home, in my office, in my neighborhood, in leadership, in my church, wherever I find myself, in my country? What ripple am I sending out? Because whether you like it or not, you are sending out ripples. And those ripples are rubbing off on people, whether you like it or not. All right. Now, this is one interesting thing you need to know about influence. The way when you influence people, you know, the fact that that guy I told you about with the drums stopped playing the drums when he got to primary 5 second term and eventually left his school after his primary 5. It does not mean that I'm going to change my mind of what I'm going to do when it gets to my turn. Because he has already given me a picture of what it looks like to be a drummer in action. And so even if he has stopped playing the drum, the effect of him playing that drum in the past is still very active in me. Do you understand? And so you may say, oh, well, I shouted at him. I've apologized. We don't even stay in that neighborhood anywhere. Me and my wife, we used to fight every time. And we don't stay there anymore. So who is he affecting? The people that were watching you that time you were fighting. Those are the people he's affecting. The people that will hear your story later. Those are the people he's affecting. All right? So this leads me to conversation number 2. You may not be there to see the final impact of your actions. You may not be there to see the final impact of your influence. There are many people today, they are no more. Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, many of them. Yet, the impact of the kind of life they lived is still being made reference to today. Do you think that when people now make reference to those kind of lifestyle that they lived, John F. Kennedy and all of that, do you think that it doesn't influence people's decisions today? It does. And so you may not be there to see the final ripple. You may not be there to see the final outcome of your actions. You may not be there. You may not be there. And so that's why you have to be intentional about the way you live. You have to be intentional about the things you say. You have to be intentional about how you treat people. You must. All right? Think about this. Do you know you can mentor? I'm trying to remember the story of Billy Graham. I can't, please, just forgive me if I'm wrong, right? Billy Graham, as a young adult, was not a Christian. I think he gave his life to Christ maybe around his late teens or early adolescence, one of them. But he gave his life to Christ in his full consciousness. I'm not saying someone that was born into Christianity or something. Like, he gave his life to Christ maybe in his teenage years. And a particular man of God went for a crusade and preached. He went for a crusade and preached. And imagine you going for a crusade, preaching to, let's just assume, 1,000 people. And then it's time for you to do altar call. If you want to give your life to Christ, please step forward. Do you know how disappointed you will be in the flesh as a pastor to look and see that only 2 people came out? But that was what happened. Only 2 people. Only 2 people came out. Only 2. 1, 2. But this is the sweet part. One of the people who came out was Billy Graham. And now, it is said, nobody has preached to more Christians. Nobody has preached to more people in person than Billy Graham in person. I'm not saying maybe the way we have YouTube and all this stuff today, where you can stream. No, in person. He spoke to billions of people in person, like one on one. Like you are seeing him, he's seeing you in person. And so that preacher who made him give his life to Christ will say, well, I only converted 2 people. But then that one of those 2 people you converted now converts almost a very large percentage of the world's population. I'm not saying of a country's population, of the world's population. So don't think that what you're doing is irrelevant, either good or bad. All right? And so let's talk about this. If every action creates a ripple, what kind of ripple do you want your life to leave behind? If every action actually creates a ripple, what kind of ripple would you want your life to, leave behind? Matthew 5 tries to highlight it. It says you're like the light of the world. And light travels, influence travels, goodness travels, hope travels. I'm very, many people come out and say, oh, I'm an influencer. Okay. Everybody in this world is an influencer. You are influencing people. You don't just know it. And just the same way, even someone who calls themselves an influencer comes out, advertises a product, and goes back in. They don't know the extent. You may look at it and see 500 viewers or 500,000 viewers. You may look at it and say, well, 500,000 people view this. But you don't know the extent of impact that advert had on people. That's the same way you may not know the extent of impact that your life has on people who just see you every day. There are people who have become more peaceful because you live around them. They've never seen you arguing. They've never seen you shouting on anybody. They're like, does that guy talk? Like, you don't know. So the question you should ask yourself is, what am I spreading? Because you're spreading something. You're creating a ripple. You're influencing people, whether you like it or not. The question is, what is it that I am spreading? What's that ripple? What's in my ripple? The ripple that I'm sending out. What is in it? So I'll close this way. I've learned something about life. I'm reading now. I wrote this down, so let's just read together. I've learned something about life. Most people are waiting to do something big. God often starts with something small. One act of kindness, one apology, one prayer, one conversation, one decision. Never ever underestimate what God can do through one faithful act. Because long after you're gone, I've said this over and over, the ripples may still be moving. The ripples may still be moving. Today we talked about domino effect. And if you now take our time to look at the picture behind the text, you will see the blue domino stick or whatever was the first to be pushed. And you can see it's on the second, and over time, even the one at the back is going to go down. That just goes far to show you. When the domino at the back, when it eventually go down, it's not the same time the one in blue was pushed. But eventually, it will go round. It will touch everybody. So why not double check to see what exactly you are sending out? I hope this blessed you. Domino effect. If you're just joining me for the first time, my name is Dozie Chuks, and I'm a software engineer, but I'm someone who still likes to talk about things that people may know, but not think about it too deeply, right? It's my job to think about it deeply. Like I want you to see it beyond the surface. You have to see it beyond the surface. All right. So thank you so much for joining. Remember, 8 p.m. every Sunday, we will be live on this channel. Every Sunday, every. We'll be live on this channel. All right. And we always handle topics like this all the time. You know, today is domino effect, but next Sunday, it's obviously going to be something else. And it's going to be as interesting and relatable and practical as practical can be. So thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. All right. And if you're not watching this video in 2026, it's fine. I hope it still blessed you. Anyways, thank you and do enjoy the rest of the night. Happy New Week. Today is the 2nd day of August 2026. Good night.